This is the Optimal Wellness Podcast, helping you achieve optimal wellness naturally, with your host, Dr. Clifford Fetters of Health and Wellness of Carmel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Optimal Wellness Podcast. I'm here with a special guest, Jenna Toupin, and she's going to be with me today, and let's hear your story.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So as he said, my name is Jenna. I have been with you guys at Health and Wellness for 6 months now?
Yes.
Pretty crazy. About half of a year. So my journey in functional medicine started like many providers. It started when I was actually a patient. So as you already know my story, I was diagnosed when I was pretty young, at like 9 or 10 years old, with a very common autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. My father is a medical doctor, which, fun fact for the audience, he actually went to residency with Dr. Fetters. So I was diagnosed with the disease when I was young. I was pretty much asymptomatic until my mid to late 20s, and I pretty drastically got pretty sick. And like I said, I come from, a family of doctors. My dad is a doctor. My siblings are all doctors. I have cousins and, uncles. So I thought initially that I would have, the answers right away. I was very familiar with the traditional model of healthcare. And I was working as a nurse in the ICU at the time. So again, I was very, very familiar with like the treatments that traditional healthcare offered. And I was very mistaken thinking that I would have the answers right away. And it took me a couple years to figure out, what was going on. And I basically had to be my own advocate and, do my own research. So I finally stumbled upon the world of functional medicine, and I was incredibly thankful for it. And it obviously, was a game changer initially when I found it. So it became a passion, and I think I found, I found the whole, gist of functional medicine when I was in the midst of my NP schooling. So initially, when I was going through that, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Okay. So I think like many functional providers, when you go through that healing journey and you figure out, how to find health, you want to share that with, your patients, obviously. But I feel like you can relate a lot with patients too. So I know what it's like to be sick. I know what it's like to not have answers. I know what it's like to be scared. But I also know what it's like to find healing. So I feel that healing is definitely found in the holistic functional model of healthcare.
So we always have questions. So we just decided we're going to just list the 5 most common questions we have from the podcast. So fire away.
Let's get started. First question: how will my first visit to a holistic doctor be different from a traditional doctor?
Probably the biggest thing is time and detail and listening. Your body tells you what's wrong. It's us to, listen and find out what's going on. Ahead of time, I know people don't like it, but we want you to fill out a questionnaire. As a rule, if everything's done right before you walk in the room, I know more about you and your health than you do. Okay, so my nurses are amazing. So then my nurses will go through everything. It is redundant, but it's redundant for a reason. You can ask any nurse, the patient tells the nurse's story, and then I hear a totally different story. Why is that? Because after you think about it, your long-term memory comes back, and I get much more detailed information when I hear it the second time. And so traditionally, back in the day, I used to see 30 to 40 patients when I did traditional medicine, and you probably know what the real was.
Fast.
And now, so if it's a new patient, if it's complicated, my nurse will spend 30 minutes with you. I will spend 45 to 60 minutes with you. So there is no hurry. And I guess, and we do get personal. I mean, we need to know your story, because your story dictates your health. If you have any kind of significant condition, there was almost always an antecedent trigger. Something happened, and you probably didn't even know it. Classically, divorce is so common. Well, Dr. Fetters said, I was so stoked for the divorce. I was great. Now it's 6 months later. I'm falling apart. Yes, your adrenaline kept you going for all that time. It's when you have the calm that your brain, your healing brain activates. Just like the 5 stages of recovery from any kind of grief. There's 5 stages, and that's so common. So usually most people rarely make the connection. What was the trigger? And sometimes it's even good. So my trigger, I had activation of Lyme disease. I moved to a new city. I just got married. new place to live, and joined a group. Then had to join another group, and then he retired. So suddenly I had a full practice twice, and I had to move. But it was all positive. I mean, everything was just great. But again, living on adrenaline. Here goes the cortisol, there goes the immune system, and pretty soon I'm hurting all over and aching and brain fog's like, oh my. I talked to my partner. He said, well, just take naproxen. I go, I've killed people with naproxen. I'm not taking that. And literally, and I realized, what a hypocrite. I literally thought, actually a woman your age, she had arthritis symptoms, and now she developed a bleeding ulcer. Another person, it raised their blood pressure enough they had a stroke, and it's like, I wouldn't take it. And then my mom, the holistic nurse, and my dad, the dentist, and they told me a doctor to see, and it was I was all over. I was in 100% on board for holistic health. Yeah, but the biggest difference is we are detailed. We do want to hear your story. I mean, we're pretty good about getting it out because I feel it's a safe place. And from our receptionist, I mean, everyone is on the same team, which is pretty cool. And unfortunately, in this day and age, customer service and caring and compassion is secondary in most businesses. Yeah.
Second question, can I live a life without prescription medications?
That's a great question. If you're having a heart attack, do not call me. It happens all the time. Do not call me. I can tell so many stories. Oh, yeah, should I tell a story? Do you want to hear a story? Okay. So a good friend of mine calls me 6 o'clock in the morning. He goes, I feel like there's an elephant on my chest for the last 4 hours. And I go, what time start? 2? I go, why'd you call me now? Well, I didn't want to wake you up. So he's still 6 o'clock in the morning. And obviously classic. He's breaking out sweat, can't breathe, radiating to his left arm. And I go, no. So he insists. He drives to my office. So I come to the office early. He's having a chest. So we call 911. These big burly paramedics, which are all handsome. My nurse appreciated that, but they are, but he wouldn't go. So I had to literally make him get on the gurney, physically put him on there. And then the doctor saved his life. He had quadruple bypass, and he was back to work in 2 weeks. And what traditional medicine does for acute care, for severe care, we have the best surgeons in the world, the best, the oncologists. I mean, all the subspecialties, when they do what they're supposed to do, they're amazing, and you want to see them. Yeah. But I tell people, just like unless you have a lot of money to try and fight stage 3 and 4 cancer, then you see the oncologist, let them put you in remission, and then you come to preferably see me along the way, but you come to see me, and then I'll make sure it never comes back. And that's with all diseases. If you have a heart attack, see me as soon as possible, but do not stop their blood thinners, do not stop their antiarrhythmics or any of that stuff. But we transition, and we've come a long way in 30 years. So every cardiologist now knows about functional medicine. They know about magnesium and CoQ10. So we work together. It's never an issue. If you're really complex, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is the next stage. Approve it with your cardiologist, because still for cardiac arrhythmias and hypertension that are really tenuous, then they know a lot more than me about their medicine. So I know all the basics. And the cool thing about prescription drugs now, they're all generic. I mean, 99% of the most amazing drugs that used to be $500 a month are now $5 a month. Treating Lyme disease used to be $3,000 or $4,000. Now it's antibiotics. Most of the antibiotics are free. I mean, literally, I had a family of 4 people with Lyme disease, and they would go broke. And now the cost is almost nothing to treat Lyme. So there is definitely a place for medicine. And
definitely a balance.
And with the pneumonia, most pneumonia is viral, but if it's bacterial, then there's antibiotics are amazing. As long as you use a probiotic, as I recall, that we're on a probiotic and I had to treat with antibiotics that developed C. difficile. So as long as it's in balance, and that's as we're both have medical degrees, so therefore we're really called integrative practice. So integrative just means both traditional and holistic.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance that I feel like a lot of patients, they get kind of caught up with wanting to have, just the supplement approach when they come here, but having pharmaceuticals sometimes are definitely needed. I had a patient a couple weeks ago that came in, and they were not aware that this was a functional practice, which was fine. We implement both sides, traditional, functional, and so when he came in, my nurse, initially let him know, and he was like, "Whoa, like, are you guys like crazies? Like, who are you guys?" And I was like, "No, we implement both." So I just educated him that what we strive to do is we strive to treat the, not just symptoms, but, the origin of what's going on. Symptoms come with it, that's the benefit of, treating the origin. But yeah, so, going back to the prescription, the pharmaceutical question, I get patients, even after the past 6 months, I've had a lot of patients that come in and they'll have pretty abnormal lab values. Yeah. Like I'll have, patients that will have a TSH, which is a marker that we check for, your thyroid health, and it's super, super high. And they'll want to just be on supplements. And the thing is like, yeah, we want that approach too. Like herbal supplements are good, but sometimes it's necessary to have those, the pharmaceutical, the prescription for the time being until we figure out what the underlying issue is. And then we can, take you off of the pharmaceuticals, the prescription, and then implement the supplements. So yeah, so it's definitely a balance. Okay, next question. What are the healthiest foods I can eat?
Okay. Well, this is what I do. And so the main thing is, you want to eat based on your metabolic type. So for me, I'm a pure protein type. I know I love my vegans, but if I eat kale, it destroys my stomach. There's something called lectins, which is anti-nutrients. So there are people that can burn lectins in beans and legumes and grains, but that's not me. I had, arthritic pain from my infectious process. So when I got rid of the Lyme, 70% better. Then when I really cleaned up my diet, 95% better. But then I still had aches and pains. And Dr. Gundry came out, the cardiologist, which was 250 pounds and lost all this weight. And one of his patients, his young nurses, I think it was a nurse that convinced him to go, the holistic route as far as getting rid of lectins, and cleaned up his diet. He lost all his weight, and he, as a cardiologist, he had all his patients lose weight and do the diet and do holistic health. And he got 90% of their prescription drugs was taken away. So I was cocky. I knew all this stuff. I read his book and I thought, wow, I didn't know that lectins are in everything. So when I took all my lectins out, it's like my joints feel better than ever before. No one's probably ever noticed I have ADD, but I'll tell you, lectins are terrible for your brain. It's like just this peace and calm. It's like when I wake still every day, it's like, I'm 65, I wake up, I have no pain, no joint pain, mental clarity, and mood. Just mood. And, any inflammatory foods, any inflammation in your body affects your mood. So, so I prefer low lectins for most people. So, superfoods, greens. We want greens, tons of minerals, no acid production from the minerals. I make, to get rid of the lectins, I prefer all my greens. I just boil. You can saute them, boil them, pressure cook. It's easier just to boil it or steam them. And then I literally do like 12 ounces of greens every day. And all the different ones, probably kale and chard are probably the most highest lectins. So those I usually don't do, but pretty much all the other greens I will do. I do one green at a time. I'm prone to allergies, so try not to eat like mixed greens. I try to do one different one every, at least rotation, probably 5 days. And then, berries are probably the superfood as far as the best fruit. The most amount of minerals, least amount of sugar. Yeah. Pomegranate, blueberries, all the different berries I rotate. Obviously, they have to be organic. The beautiful thing about our diet too is, yes, it's more expensive, but junk food's expensive. You're paying $5 for this piece of, synthetic crap that probably taught 5 cents to make. The advertising where the money goes. So, I don't buy any of that stuff. I have no alcohol. Sometimes literally one of my children was crying when they were a young adult. Look at my pantry. Dad, you have nothing to eat. He was it's like nothing you want to eat, but it's like, I don't eat junk, so my pantry is pretty bare, but it's a lot less expensive to do that. Okay. And then meat, everyone's this war against cows, their farts are not destroying the planet. I promise you. So as long as it's grass-fed beef is a superfood. Grass-fed beef has been proven to not cause cancer. In fact, men who do grain-fed beef or processed meats definitely increase risk of prostate cancer. But a huge study shows if you have the grass-fed, it decreases risk of cancer. So meat is good, but it's got to be, if it's beef, it's grass-fed. Bison apparently are so smart, they don't eat grains no matter what. You can't make them, so they're pretty much healthy. So just clean, ethically raised animals, I feel is very healthy. The vegetables, same thing. Just there's charts, but just vegetables, just the low glycemic vegetables. So I say broccoli and cauliflower, celery, lettuce, radishes are actually super healthy for you. So you just there's list anywhere, just the highest quality, low glycemic, low lectin vegetables. And I don't eat grains or beans at all. Then coffee. My mom loved coffee. I didn't like it. Study after study shows longevity, like adding years in your life. And just in the last year, they realized it actually just like it alkalizes your body. Just like how can lemons be so good for you when they're so acidic? But paradoxically, it alkalizes your body. So coffee does the same thing. So I do our version of bulletproof coffee. So I get definitely the coffee. What you say, wait a minute, coffee's high in lectins, but you just got to get the cleanest organic coffee that's mold free. And then I add a lot of ghee to it. And sometimes I do MCT, the C8, the brain octane. So,
there's a lot of brands like for coffee that it will say like mycotoxin free.
Yeah. I'm sure I pay probably double.
Yeah.
But I don't, and people worry about caffeine, but I, just 3 tablespoons, but I make 32 ounces and I sip it throughout the day and I never have blood sugar crashing. And therefore, when I do eat, I don't have to eat as much. And I think the ghee makes it so sweet. It's like that.
You think it makes it sweet?
I do.
Really?
I have weird taste buds, but it's like, I think it's a sweet taste.
I do think coupling it with ghee, though, it does help significantly with the crashing. I mean, obviously it does, but I mean, it's
some people don't know what that means. But if you have low blood sugar, it's like that. So I had protein, which, protein, it can be converted to sugar. So that's the beauty of fat. So, I don't crash at all. And mental clarity all day. It's wonderful.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Next question. Is there an age where it's too late to switch to a holistic approach to my health?
Actually,
you're done. No.
Right now. So,
it's too late.
My average patient, right. Of course, usually their patients are your age, but still my average new patient is probably 70 years of age. And as you get older, as you know, the materialism, it becomes less and less. So you get rid of stuff. So what's important to you is your health. Because when you're healthy, then you got to maintain relationships with your kids, your grandkids, and everyone else. And grandkids is probably the greatest motivation to take care of yourself, to keep up with the grandkids. So I have people in their 80s and 90s. I mean, I have a woman that's and I have people in the 90s that drive here. And from out of town, and they're good drivers and they enjoy life and have more fun than anyone else because all their relationships is their whole life. So it's never too late.
Yeah. So
the body's amazing.
The body is incredibly smart. I mean, obviously it's more difficult for somebody that's 80, 90 to regenerate their health as opposed to somebody that's like 20, 30s. But the body is. It's incredible. It's super smart.
It is.
So it can definitely, it can definitely regenerate and it can fix itself if you give it what it needs to heal. Yeah. So, all right. Next question. Why am I always tired?
All right.
I don't know.
That's right.
And can a holistic doctor help me?
Right. The first thing you think of is your thyroid gives you energy. Then number 2 is your adrenals, but your hormones. Unfortunately, we live in this wonderful society with all these. You don't have to work for anything. You can have 10-foot TVs and everything, but the price we pay is our pollution, the pollution in our food, in our water, in our air, and if you really take care of yourself, you can have good energy. And obviously the diet, if you're eating a lectin diet, you're not getting your protein, well, you're not going to have much energy if you're deficient in protein, if you're inflamed.
It's obviously the toxins too, but also just like, correct me if I'm wrong, but our foods are just gradually becoming more depleted of certain,
Right. You have to take vitamins. In my Zach Bush, who's super famous, and he agrees, he goes, the amount of money it takes to put vitamins and minerals into the soil and then you absorb it and assimilate it, it's 10 times more expensive. Yeah. So just get clean food, but your micronutrients, probably 80% has to come from your vitamins.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, next question. Can I get pain-free without medication? So kind of similar to the one about being tired. Is there a way to alleviate pain without meds?
So most pain is osteoarthritis, wear and tear of the bones. So a long time ago, I was at a conference and this man said, osteoarthritis is diabetes of the bones. Yeah. And now I'm saying Alzheimer's is diabetes of the brain. So I think most people are like me, get rid of the sugar, clean up your diet, at least 9% better. But when you get rid of the lectins, I see this all the time. People are crying.
I'm lectin.
Yeah, well, because it's so important. That's probably the one thing is people are forgetting. So I just last week I had a woman crying in pain. She's very much overweight and she wanted narcotics. And finally I said, how many times I said, I'll give you all the narcotics you want, but for 7 days, no lectins at all. And she calls back and her pain-free.
Okay, so for the average patient, if someone were to come in here, what would you say, and they're just beginning their journey in this whole functional world that we live in, what would you say are some of the top supplements that you would recommend for just starting out?
Number one, vitamin D. Vitamin D deficiency. It's a hormone. It dictates, osteoporosis, heart disease. Just energy, mood. Everything is very much dependent on vitamin D. Probably number two, you love the gut health, I didn't
even get to talk about it.
So I believe in probiotics. You can do fermented food and stuff, but I just have noticed that just when people do probiotics, how much it helps their body. And then a multivitamin. Those three. And then the next one would be vitamin C. And like I said, and almost everyone's magnesium deficient. And, I really worry about EMF. And actually, it used to be multivitamins and B vitamins help neutralize it. But magnesium, the EMF releases all this extra calcium, and calcium is so damaging at high levels. And magnesium is what optimizes and counteracts the excessive calcium. So those are big. And then probably zinc is the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, like you just said, I love to focus on the gut. I think it's incredibly important. I know that you kind of disagree in some ways.
Yeah, I know. I made this epiphany last night. It's like the average person is, since I've been doing this forever, they've been to 3 other different holistic doctors. So they have already know. So typically I've got my skewed population is they've done everything right. They're still sick. So that's why I go to the heavy metals and the infectious process. But I just think the average, every holistic doctor, the first thing that you were taught is you got to heal the gut first. And I think most time they're at least they're 80% better. And that 20% they can't get there is the other stuff that I do. But I agree. The gut is.
Like we said, we talked last night briefly, like 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So if you have this, what we call dysbiosis or this imbalance, it can lead to a whole slew of things. So probiotics are huge, but also, catering towards the commensals in the gut, so the good bacteria, seeing exactly, what is off balance. So feeding, what we talked about, like the polyphenols and the sources of food that can also feed that microbiome. But probiotics are great. I like supporting the liver. I think the liver is huge, especially for women when it comes to hormones and weight loss. And but at the end of the day, if I had to pick one, it'd be a multivitamin.
Well, thank you so much, Jenna. I really appreciate you. My patients love you. And it's nice you take the load off of me. And we thank all our patients that are liking us and keep supporting us, and look forward to our next podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Optimal Wellness Podcast. Subscribe now to get monthly episodes to help you achieve your wellness goals. And if you'd like to learn how we can help, schedule an appointment at Health and Wellness of Carmel today. Just go to HWOFC.com or call 317-663-7123.